Good evening. Welcome to the Lebanon Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for Monday, August the 5th. Roll call, please.
Corey Coontz.
Here.
Chad Kiger, absent. Bruce Polly.
Here.
Ron Edwards.
Here.
Lori Gross. Here.
Has everybody looked at the minutes? And if everybody agrees with them, look at a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes as written.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved. We have no old business tonight. We'll start with docket number 2427. Excuse me. SMG Safety Management Group requesting a
Mr. Ben Bontrager.
SMG Safety Management Group is requesting a development standards variance to allow an alternative parking surface for a project they're doing out on US 52. So if they want to pull up the overhead, start with an overview of the site. So for a little bit of background here, this is a piece of property that you can see on the aerial here has been purchased by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation in anticipation of this becoming part of the LEAP district. And it in fact is zoned LEAP. We have a whole zoning district associated with the LEAP district. So it is zoned LEAP, is owned by the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. So SMG Group is looking at an adaptive reuse of the existing site in order to provide safety training for workers, or for the thousands of workers that will be out on LEAP construction sites. And this will give them an opportunity to kind of get up and running relatively quickly, since we already have several hundred construction workers out on Lily's site, and use an existing pole barn that's out here on this property. This property was previously used by a landscape business. So they have a large pole barn in the back of the property that you can kind of see represented here down at the south end. And then this area, while it looks like gravel now, a lot of this has already been covered with asphalt millings. And for those that don't know exactly what asphalt millings are, basically when you resurface a road, they take a machine out that grinds the surface off, and those are the asphalt millings. So it's bits of asphalt from the surface of a road that's been torn up. And so the asphalt millings do not meet the definition of a paved surface in the ordinance. And so what the ordinance says is that in the LEAP district, off-street parking area surfaces are to be durable and use a surface such as concrete, brick paver, asphalt, approved pervious concrete, permeable pavers, or other durable materials. So, and it does say as approved by the city engineer, and the city engineer does not currently consider asphalt millings as an approved surface. And typically that's because when you're doing new asphalt, it runs through the asphalt machine and lays it down, and then they roll it. With asphalt millings, that usually just you bring it in a dump truck and you pour them, and then you roll them out. So it's not quite as durable, although over time, asphalt millings will reheat in the sun and become more of a durable surface. So because this area is already asphalt millings, already been spread out there, and this is intended to be a temporary use of this property. And as provided by SMG Safety, they indicate that they have a 3-year lease on the property with 2 1-year extensions that could be approved. So this is, again, intended to be a temporary use of the property. For that reason, we felt like it was appropriate to consider using that existing asphalt milling surface as opposed to requiring them to upgrade this site to the standards of the LEAP zoning district, thus allowing them to get this up and running and use it temporarily for the next 3 to 5 years for safety training for workers out in the LEAP district. So to kind of go through it here, here's a quick site plan of the site. Again, the pole barn, like you saw in the aerial, sits here right in the center. And this entire area that you kind of see outlined with this oval is already asphalt millings. And what they're going to do is they have the training barn is being remodeled to have 2 classrooms that would have a capacity in each classroom for up for 22 students. And they would anticipate there would likely be 1 to 2 instructors there during the day as well. So a maximum of about 45, 46 people could be out there, but they do anticipate that they wouldn't have that many at any one time. So what they've provided here, though, is a parking plan that would have a total of 51 spaces, so enough to hit that maximum capacity. And then they will have some ADA accessible spaces to the front. And then what they'll use landscape timbers to mark the front of the parking spaces, and then just spray paint down the lines. Again, this is intended to be temporary. And then they will maintain those. If somebody were to run into a landscape timber, they'll make sure to get that fixed and maintained. And then as the spray paint wears out, they'll make sure to repaint those while they're using it. So they do intend to maintain this. But again, because it's temporary, they're going to try to do it as best they can in a financially feasible way. And so with that, then, as I mentioned, this would be a development standards variance request to allow an alternative parking surface, in this case, asphalt millings. And so, like all variances, there are 3 evaluation criteria that must be met in order to consider a variance request. The first is that the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Staff has determined that relief from the paving requirement will pose no imminent threat to the community. The applicant would maintain current conditions, which primarily are asphalt millings. Now there is some gravel, and has surveyed the property to ensure there is proper drainage to the existing retention pond on the site. So the applicant will also maintain proper parking lot markings to ensure safe distributions of vehicles on the site. Criteria number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The request for the paving will not affect the use and value of the area. The applicant is proposing essentially to maintain the existing improvements and conditions on the property. And finally, the strict application of the terms of the UDO will result in practical difficulties. Staff has determined that a strict application will result in practical difficulties because the proposed training facility is temporary in nature. The site will likely only be used for these purposes for a limited time, in this case, 3 to 5 years, and then would potentially be redeveloped for a new LEAP district purpose. And what we've indicated here then is that if for some reason proposed training facility is needed for longer than the indicated 5 years, staff would recommend that the parking lot shall be improved to meet LEAP district parking lot standards at that time. Before I again go into staff recommendations, I do want to highlight the fact that we did get a letter from a adjacent neighbor that's to the north of the site. Maybe we'll go back to the aerial and zoom out a little bit. I believe it might be the directly adjacent neighbor right here. And they indicated, and this is not directly related to the paving, but to the use of the site, that there is quite a bit of overgrowth along the fence line here to the front of the property, and they're concerned about that many people coming and going from the site with limited visibility of people coming off the overpass onto this area. So what I would additionally recommend is that we work with the applicant to get this cleaned up and trimmed back so that we can improve visibility for people coming in and out of the site at that location. That's a minor thing that we can get addressed when they start using this site. So with that, then, planning staff recommends approval of the development standards variance request to permit relief from the parking lot paving requirement, subject to the following conditions. And that would be that the variance approval will expire 5 years from the date of approval. If the proposed training facility use is needed beyond this 5-year date, the applicant will be required to improve the parking lot surface to an approved material. Number 2, that the applicant will approve all surface areas to asphalt millings and eliminate any existing areas that are gravel only to reduce as much as possible any potential dust. And finally, number 3, I would add that's not in the staff report, that the staff would work with the applicant to trim back any of the overgrowth along the front fence line along US 52 to improve visibility for oncoming traffic. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Anything else?
Just in terms of.
You need to come up to the mic, please.
Thank you. Jason Jones with Safety Management Group. Related to the overgrowth along State Road 52, we already are under contract with a company to clear that out, cut those trees down, get it back, 1, safe, and 2, so it's visually appealing to anybody coming by. So that should be done no more than a couple of weeks. Outside of that, we intend to have the lot timbers and everything down in the next 30, 45 days upon building permit. That's under contract with the GC as well.
Do you have any comment on, so in here, there would be a strict definition of a 5-year expiration. Is that something that safety group would see potentially needing extended, or, what are your thoughts on that piece?
Yeah, that's a great question. without having a crystal ball, we think that there's going to be a good use for this, right? That what we bring into market is half of this training facility is hands-on. So we're going to bring a worker out of the classroom. They're going to get to actually build scaffolding, get into fall protection, and use practical application. There's nothing like it. The closest facility like this is in Houston, Texas. So we feel like there's a strong case for it. And with the development at LEAP, it could last that long. It's all contingent upon what the state's use is for that land. For us, it's a testing ground to proof point it, and then perhaps then we build our own permanent facility and invest into this area long term.
Okay, thank you.
Sir,
Thank you.
this is a public meeting. Anybody from the public care to step forward and address this issue? Do so now, please. Seeing nobody stepping forward, we'll close the public end of the meeting. And if there's no further questions,
If I could just ask a follow-up to Ben. So reference the 5-year hard date. Is that something that we could rather put to the specific user, or my concern is, we exceed the 5 years. Do we really on this parcel for the same usage without any changes? Do we really
So what I would say is that whether it's SMG Safety Group or somebody else that wants to use it for training, if and or when that expires, they could always return with an additional variance request that could be considered by the BZ at that time. I would prefer to kind of keep a hard date in there. I don't want this to be extended indefinitely.
right?
So certainly there is still an option if somebody, even if it's SMG, if they say, hey, we need this for one more year while our facility is being constructed or something like that, they can always return to the BZA and request that additional year.
Okay.
for a motion.
I make a motion to approve docket 24-27 as written.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to second, and that, as written, is with the third,
Yes.
okay,
What to confirm?
with the third staff recommendation.
Yeah, maybe I'll clarify it for you, Ron, because as written in the staff report doesn't include the landscape trimming. So there would be a third condition added to the two in the staff report that staff would work with the applicant to ensure that the landscaping, the overgrowth is trimmed back from the right of way.
Thank you.
I would second as discussed.
Kelly?
Mark Coontz,
Yes.
Bruce Polly,
Yes.
Ron Edwards,
Yes.
Lori Gross.
Yes.
Carries. Congratulations. Good luck. I gotta get all these in order here. Okay, docket 2428 is Aaron Hunt, Civil Environmental Consultant. Property is located at 705 through 1055 West Cox Street. Property is zoned light industrial and comprised of 17 and a half acres. Ben?
Thank you, Bruce. Go grab my water here.
It's catchy tonight.
All right, this is a site that's been before the Board of Zoning Appeals previously. This is the site that was approved for McAllister Reynolds facility. That's just, let me go back to the overall location here. This is I-65 to the north, State Road 39 to the east. Flying J is directly in front of it on the State Road 39 frontage. So this is a park that's going to be developed with multiple sites, actually 4 sites. There are 3 of the sites that will be standalone industrial buildings, speculative industrial buildings. And then this 4th site kind of is tucked into the southwest corner is where McAllister Reynolds will be located on the overall site. And they had approached us. This is a very similar request to what we just heard about using asphalt millings. So if you look at this overall site, this is their primary building here. They have customer employee parking that will be located to the north of the building here that would be asphalt paved, meeting ordinance requirements. But then they've got this large area to the back where they would be storing and working on equipment, large, in some cases, very large equipment with tracks, heavy wheels, such as like very heavy equipment. And a typical paved asphalt parking lot gets torn up pretty quickly when you have that kind of equipment back there, particularly equipment with tracks. And so what they are proposing is to use asphalt millings back here. They will still put down a gravel base, and they will actually install the gravel millings with the typical asphalt paving machine. So they will reheat it and lay it down. But the asphalt millings are easier to repair than a traditional asphalt paved parking lot. So what the asphalt millings will allow them to do is if tracks from a big backhoe or something tears up the asphalt millings, they basically just roll it back flat and or add additional asphalt millings to it to repair it. It's a much easier process to repair and maintain an asphalt milled parking lot than it is a traditional asphalt parking lot. So that is their request, that they would maintain to the north of the building here a traditional asphalt paved lot where there would be vehicular traffic. And then this area to the back would then, where the equipment is stored, would be maintained as an asphalt milling surface. And this would be a permanent surface out here. This would not, unlike the last request, this is a permanent facility and would be permanently maintained as asphalt millings. And they do have other facilities where they do this because it's just easier for them to maintain when you have large, heavy equipment, particularly with tracks that tear up asphalt and things like that. So just in terms of the overall site, this entire site is enclosed within a security fence. So that reduces visibility to the equipment yard. And then you can also see on the north side and the east side here, which are the sides that are most visible, either to other sites or to the public right-of-way, which is out here. You can see a pretty significant landscape screen. So in addition to the security fence that will provide some screening of the site, there is also landscaping that will provide additional screening to try to limit the view into that equipment yard that you see to the back of the property. And then just by way of the fact that we work with the applicant to move this site to the back, the southwest corner, it reduces the visibility of that site from Interstate 65 and State Road 39 as well. So we very strategically work with them to locate this in this back part of the development to reduce the visibility of that equipment yard. So we've done a number of things to try to limit the impact, the visual impact of what the equipment yard would be, and certainly the asphalt millings with the security fence and the landscaping. It's going to be hard to get a visibility of that site back in there. So there's a number of ways that we've tried to alleviate any potential impacts that yard would have. So with that, then I'll go through a couple elements from the staff report. The request is, again, very similar to the last one, is to use an alternative paving surface for the equipment yard, in this case, specific to the equipment yard. This site is currently zoned light industrial. And while the terminology is slightly different than the LEAP district, the standard of the ordinance does say off-street parking area shall be paved with a hard dust-proof surface in accordance with city construction standards. And as I mentioned previously, the city engineers determined that the typical asphalt milling surface does not meet those definitions. Thus, the reason for the variance request they have for you tonight. And again, there's three criteria that must be met in order to consider a development standards variance. The first is the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. We've determined relief from the parking or paving requirement poses no imminent threat to the community. The applicant is voluntarily committed to providing paving in those areas that would see the most customer and employee vehicular traffic, with the areas restricted primarily to equipment storage, maintaining the asphalt millings. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Staff has determined the requested variance for parking or paving will not affect the use and value of the area adjacent in an adverse manner. The proposed equipment storage area with asphalt millings is entirely enclosed for security purposes with a 6-foot black vinyl coated chain link fence backed with privacy fabric to screen the yard from view. In addition, the storage yard is located to the back of the subject property and is bordered by the railroad tracks on one side and another industrial building with a large trailer storage area on the other. On the street side to the north, the applicant is proposing significant landscape plantings in addition to the fence to provide additional screening. And I'll go back to the overall area so you can see that again. So that storage yard backs up to the railroad to the west. And as you can see here, while I don't know that there's trailers stored like that to the south right now, but there is a large trailer storage area to the south on this adjacent property. So those are the two closest neighbors to what would be the equipment storage area. The final criteria Then as a strict application of terms of UDO result in practical difficulties, staff has determined that the strict application of the terms of the UDO will result in practical difficulties in use of the property. Because of the significant size and weight of the equipment, the applicant will be storing in the proposed equipment yard. A typical asphalt paving treatment will not hold up for any length of time with constant use causing ongoing maintenance issues. The proposed treatment of 4 inches of asphalt millings over 6 inches of compacted aggregate is more maintenance friendly for this type of use. And with that, then, staff recommendation, City of Lebanon Planning staff recommends approval of the development standards variance request to permit relief from the parking lot paving requirement of the Unified Development Ordinance. And that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
You recall what the first, when they were here 6 months ago or whatever, what was it going to be at that point? Do you recall?
I think they were still working through the site details at that time. I think most likely they've always proposed the asphalt millings. We just didn't have the full construction plans yet at that time. So when they came through the last time, it was just for the conditional use approval for the general use of the property. And so now that they've got all the site and construction details worked out, now we're coming back to get this one approved.
I think the city needs to think about getting the standards changed, because there's like this here, in my opinion, this is much better than concrete, or there's times when this needs to be required.
Yeah, that's something, and probably it would be just as easy to add in an exception where they could work with the city engineer on an approved surface or something like that. But yeah, we can work on some language that might be able to allow some ability for staff and the city engineer to determine what an appropriate surface would be for depending on the use.
Hey, does the applicant have anything to add?
Good evening. Yeah, Aaron Hurt with Civil and Environmental Consultants representing McAllister's. Yeah, I think Ben did a great job, was very detailed. This paving surface is very similar to other facilities they have, and they found that it is better for them to maintain that, like you're saying, versus like an asphalt that will heave and cause issues, or concrete that will break over time. So they find this as the best surface for them, and they will put it down with a paver. So it will essentially be like asphalt paving, just a little more coarse and a little stronger. So yeah, happy to answer any questions, and I think they're looking forward to getting started here later this year. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, once again, this is a public meeting. I'll open it to the public if anybody wants to step forward. Nobody stepping forward. We'll close the public end of the meeting and look for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the development standard variance request to permit relief from the parking lot paving requirements.
Second.
Coons,
Yes.
Bruce Polly,
Yes.
Ron Edwards,
Yes.
Lori Gross.
Yes.
Congratulations. Okay, we're down to our last item tonight. It's docket 2429. Natasha Marshall of the Positively Pet Grooming. The property is located at 231 East Ash Street here in town, zoned residential and comprised of approximately 0.23 acres. The subject lot configuration, 56 feet wide, 180 feet deep. Ben?
Thank you. Work on getting the appropriate documents up here. Just a moment. All right, so the request is before you here tonight is for Positively Pet Grooming. Looking at a site that is on 231 East Ash Street. This is in an area that is primarily residential, as you can see, but it is definitely not a residential building. This is a commercial building that has been used historically for commercial purposes. So the applicant has approached us, and actually they're looking for a site to build a permanent facility. But due to some issues outside of their control, they're not able to construct a new facility right now. So they're looking for a place where they can land right now and address some of the needs they're seeing in the community and get established until such time as they're able to construct a new facility. And so this is a site that they've been looking at. And so what they're proposing that they would do here then is have both dog grooming and also dog daycare during the day. And that would, the operation would have 2 groomers that will typically see anywhere between 1 and 15 dogs per day. I'd love to see a day where they got through 15 dogs. That would be amazing. Certainly not my dog. He would take the entire day. And then drop off for grooming is between 8 and 9 a.m. And then pickup typically is done by 5 p.m. The proposed daycare operation would have 1 to 2 employees on any given day. And the ratio is 15 dogs per 1 employee. So if they have 2 employees there that day, they can have a maximum of 30 dogs. So it'd be anywhere from 15 to 30 maximum, depending on the number of employees. Hours of operation for the daycare are 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. So you can drop off and pick up anytime between those hours. The facility does not provide boarding, so there wouldn't be no dogs present overnight. This is just a daytime operation. And so this type of facility falls under the UDO definition of animal sales and services, household pets only. So this is on the services side. This site is zone R6, which is a residential zoning classification. So commercial use such as this would not be permitted by right within that zoning district. Therefore, we determined that a variance of use application was necessary. And so in order to determine whether use variance should be considered, there are 5 criteria that must be met in order to do so. The first is that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Staff has determined that this use variance request to permit a pet grooming and dog daycare will not be injurious to the community. The use will be appropriately contained within the existing commercial building on the property with a small outside area for the dogs to the rear of the building. And maybe I'll zoom in here a little bit so you can see that. Obviously, as you can see, the building takes up most of the lot, but there is a little bit of an area back here behind the building that would be used to take the dogs outside when they need to do business. Criteria number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Staff has determined that the requested use variance would not affect the use and value of the area adjacent. The proposed pet grooming and daycare use of the property, given it will be primarily contained within the building during the day and would not include overnight stays, will have minimal impact on the neighbors. While the surrounding area is primarily residential, there are also some non-residential uses, including a church and a feed store. Thus, the proposed commercial use is not entirely inconsistent with the adjacent area. Criteria number 3, the need for the variance arises from some condition peculiar to the property. Staff has determined that the property is currently zoned for residential uses, but the structure on the property is commercial in nature and has no viability for residential uses. Thus, it does meet the definition of peculiar condition. Criteria number 4, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property. While the property is zoned for residential uses, the existing structure is not a multifamily and or residential structure. In addition, the site is not sized appropriately to accommodate the uses permitted within the residential zoning district and would be rendered unusable if only uses permitted by the district were allowed, thus meeting the definition of unnecessary hardship. And finally, criteria number 5 is the approval does not interfere substantially with the City of Lebanon Comprehensive Plan. The City of Lebanon Comprehensive Plan designates this property for residential uses. However, the immediate area near the subject property contains both residential and non-residential uses. Thus, the applicant's proposal does not interfere substantially with this land use designation. And then with that then, in summary, staff recommendation, City of Lebanon Planning staff recommends approval of the variance of use request to permit an animal sales and services household pets only use within the R6 residential zoning district subject to the following conditions. And that would be that the approval of the variance of use is limited to those animal sales and services uses proposed by the applicant. Any change in use or increase in the intensity of the use by the current or any subsequent owners will require approval from the City of Lebanon Board of Zoning Appeals. And what we mean by that is if they were to add any additional services that weren't proposed at the time, or if, let's say, a future owner says, hey, we've got 4 employees, so we want to put 60 dogs in there. That would be an increase in the intensity of the use. So we want that to be able to be reviewed and approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals if some sort of request like that was made in the future. So that's what that condition, that's how that would be applied. Second condition, that the proposed dog daycare use is limited to a maximum of 30 dogs on any given day. And this assumes that there are 2 employees dedicated specifically to the daycare use. And number 3, that no boarding services and or overnight stays for animals is permitted on the subject site. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
So on any certain day, they could have 45 dogs in that building.
Well, I would guess that the dogs coming in and going for grooming, you may not have all 15 of them there all at the same time. Theoretically, if everybody dropped off their dog for grooming first thing in the morning, you could have 45 dogs there theoretically.
The use variance said 30, not to exceed
Yeah,
30
I think
at
that
any
was
one
restricted
time.
to the
That was
daycare.
daycare.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I
Daycare.
think I'll make sure. Yeah, dog daycare use is limited to 30 dogs.
Gotcha. Okay. As far as access to the location, based on the map, it looks like it's accessible either from Ash Street or Noble. Do we know, are we going to limit access to either of those? And you may address this later, so.
I'd be able to address it. I'm
I'll
assuming
save
though that they
one
would
for
be
you
using.
guys.
Yeah, I assuming they're going to be using the Ash Street side for drop off, but I'll
Okay.
let them address that specifically for you.
Okay, perfect.
You want to come up and tell us a little bit?
Hello, I'm Natasha Marshall, and then Cole Davis. I'm Cole Davis. To answer your question, yes, we would have just access on the Ash Street side because Noble Street is busy, just so because it's all going to be mainly pick up and drop off. So it's not going to be people parking there for a long period of time. It's coming in, going out. And Ash Street, there's no one that comes really on that street at all.
Right.
So everything would be access on the Ash Street side. And to also answer kind of more of your question, yes, there could be potentially up to 45 dogs on the property at one time, but a lot of times, even up to the 15 dogs of us grooming there, typically 4 to 6 of them are gone by noon to 1 o'clock. But even with us doing like the 15 dogs are out by 4 or 5 o'clock. And then the 30 dogs, if we are at the max there, they're gone by 6 o'clock. And so to access all that, but just with the feedback from our clients, we have been there for almost 2 years now. Everyone's asking us, we need somewhere to take our dog. We need doggy daycare. Are you guys planning on expanding and everything? And with some situations that are out of our control, we are unable to expand at the property that we would want to. And so we're trying to just go with what our clients want and to expand in the building that we are in and able to do until we are able to expand in a bigger area. It's not in anywhere residential.
Right.
And so, but I think it'd be good for the community. I mean, Lebanon's growing. Everyone has dogs.
There's a need.
There's a very big need for this in the city of Lebanon.
You guys hold any licenses or I know the health
Certified
department takes care of
groomers.
Yeah,
all
we're
that.
both certified groomers.
Cool.
But we've also been in the industry for almost 20 years. We've been working with, I think you since 2005 and me since 2007, just in the industry in general. So we have tons of experience with dogs, dog behavior, everything I've dealt with. And same with her. We deal with a lot of difficult dogs in general right now with grooming. It's kind of honestly our specialty. A lot of dogs will get kicked out of other groomers. They will come to us and we deal with their needs. And that's why most of the time we're both there so we can help each other as well. And so we do have that 15-to-1 ratio as well. You don't want it to get too crowded or too overwhelming for one employee. That's why we have a 15-to-1 ratio. And it also kind of just depends, you can have 15 little dogs or you can have 15 big dogs. And so it just kind of depends on that as well.
Is that 15 a state mandated thing, or is it just something that you've come up with?
It's not a state mandate, but it is something that we have kind of experienced where, with dog behavior or anything, I mean, sometimes you can have 20 dogs in there, there'd be no issues, but then you just put one dog in there that can cause an issue where we would have to, separate groups or whatnot. And the building's big enough to where we can have 2 different groups. So if that were a problem, we can put 15 and 15 to be able to do that.
Is there a state mandated number of dogs to employees, or can you have, no, there isn't? You can have 1 dog and 1 employee or 100 dogs?
Not that I'm aware of, but I know of other facilities that will do 50 to 60 dogs per one employee. We just say 15 to 1 for the safety of
Manageability.
manageable and safety of the dog and the employees. I think 50 to 60 to 1 is kind of crazy. I would never want to do that. But it's just for the safety of the dogs is number one priority, and also for the employees that we would employ.
I totally agree. What you do, the grooming and the daycare, there's a real need. Where I have a problem is the location and the numbers. And I understand you're looking for someplace else to go. But say if I was going to bring my dog to doggy daycare, he's going to go in a kennel, correct? Okay, then that's what you need to explain to me, because I didn't see any place to take them out to run and very little space to take them out to go to the bathroom. So I want you to explain.
It would be leashed walk.
That, but also
The back.
I don't know if I can bring.
I don't know how
the-
to zoom it in.
The back part. Oh yeah, there you go. There we go. Oh, sorry. This area, this is actually a pretty big area. So what we would do is, depending on setbacks, put a fence in right here to fence in this area, and then rotate dogs as a group in and out of here, or as she was saying, leash walk. Right now, we have a good relationship with the owner and renters of this house where this is fenced off right here. Right now, we currently do walk them in this area to where they can relieve themselves. But there's also this driveway area that we would close off anyway, so there's no access from Noble Street. So then that way they'll eliminate that question of no one's going in and out of that. So we've also talked about just within ourselves with a little area here that we would fence in as well, so where they can go outside and relieve themselves.
Okay, so inside of the building, what do you do with the animals?
So inside the building, you would have, there's already 4 portions inside the building already. So there's 4 different renters in there per se. So we have, right now, we are currently in this section. Then there's another section right here that has a wall. And then this area, we would have it almost be fully open. And then there would be a divider pretty much right here to where we can, if it becomes too many dogs, we'll put the divider out, and then we have 2 separate areas that will have a gate where we can go back and forth between the 2 areas. So there's no cages, no runs or anything. It's just doggy daycare where they come in and play. And then some dogs will have accidents in there, and that's just normal, where we would put a
clean up,
drain.
right.
Yeah, put a drain in there to where we can hose down or mop or whatnot and
So
clean
they'll
it.
just be loose in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
They will be assessed clearly
Yeah.
before they come in to determine behavior issues and stuff like that, so.
And vaccination?
Vaccination,
Oh, yes,
yeah.
that's
They have to be
very big.
vaccinated. They have to be spayed and neutered, so we don't want any accidents happening with that. And then also, like she said, with the assessment, every dog would have to be assessed in order to come in to play. But with the 2 different areas, so with the grooming, we do have runs. They're not cages, they're like 4x4 runs. If a dog were to cause issues or anything, we would take them out, put them in a run as kind of like kids, a timeout time. And then
Call mom and
Yeah.
dad. They gotta come pick them up.
yeah, come get them or whatnot. And then enter them back into the group. We would try to enter them back into the group. If that doesn't go over well, then of course we would call the owner and have them come. Or they would stay in the run, and we would take them out until they came on.
So they can kind of run inside, and then you're going to fence off in the back outside. Okay, because I went down there and I just didn't see very much area.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of area, but this is a pretty big area here, and this over here, depending on setbacks, we would want to put like AstroTurf down to where it's easy to
At least
clean.
an elimination area
Yeah.
so that they could relieve themselves.
Mhm.
We say a pretty big area or a pretty small area. How big is the area?
Inside the building or
Outside.
outside? I mean, it's not like big, but it's big enough to where you can let a few dogs out there. Yeah, you maybe.
Yeah,
keep
you have
hands.
I can maybe help a little bit. So the building itself is 4,000 square feet. So it's a pretty big building. So they'll have large areas of play. So the lot is 56 feet wide. So you're probably looking at an area behind the building that's probably in the neighborhood of 30 to 40 feet wide. And then you've probably got another 30 or 40 feet to the back to Noble Street. So you're probably looking at maybe another 1,000 square feet back there that could be fenced in.
There on the side also, that would be
That's,
probably what, 15 feet?
yeah, probably 10 to 15 feet. Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to fence that area off also?
We would-
Depends on setbacks, yeah.
Yes.
When you open the entry door to bring in a pet, is there a secure door on the other side so they won't get out or in? Okay,
Double, everything's double.
okay, very good, thank you.
And the fencing would be a 6-foot privacy fence. So no chain link to where they can't climb over or anything like that. So that would, there would be a privacy fence. So there would be.
You have this very well thought out, and you've answered a lot of my questions. I'm still struggling with 30 dogs.
It's a, like
Large
he said, yeah, it's a
facility.
really big facility of
It
4,000 square feet for, we are in just one portion of it and we have up to 15 dogs right now and have no issues with it, with just the one section right here. And that's with 2 of us in there and grooming with a bathing area.
And like she said before, it could be 15 little dogs and 5 big dogs, or, I mean, the ratio, we'll try and balance the ratio as best we can to make sure.
So you're going to have 2 sections, or 3 sections, your grooming, and then 2 sections for the daycare?
Correct, but the 2 sections for the daycare would be a divider that we can push off to the side and
Right.
make one big room, or we can pull it and make 2 different areas to play in.
You've talked to all your neighbors.
Yeah, we have a pretty,
Relationship with our
really good
neighbors, yeah.
relationship. This
Okay.
one brings their dog in to us.
I'm just saying 30 and maybe 10 of them are barkers. That's,
It'll be insulated
Yeah.
too. Yeah. You'd be surprised at how quiet it can be with that many dogs in there. You'd really be
You'd be
surprised.
I'm still struggling with 30, but you know more what you're doing than I do. So, but you've answered my questions sufficiently. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, look for a motion.
At the public hearing.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We got to wait for people to rush to the microphone.
Yeah, public meeting. If anybody from the audience cares to step forward and address the board, we will close the public end of the meeting. And now I'd look for a motion.
Well, just one quick clarifier with Ben. So just to kind of touch on what Lori brought up, these variances would not in any way supersede any noise variance. So if there were an ongoing nuisance and that sort of thing, we could still pursue, the city could pursue noise issues through
For
separate
sure.
variants.
And
So-
I think the big thing is it's restricted to 7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Right.
when I wouldn't say all, but many people are at work or are not in their homes. So
Right.
that would hopefully eliminate the times when people are having dinner or trying to go to sleep at night because there won't be dogs there during those hours. But yes, you're correct. If it becomes an issue, we'd work with them to try to
Right.
address it.
Perfect. Thank you. So then I would motion to approve 24-29 as presented. There were. Perfect. Yes,
A motion and Ronnie was second.
Ollie,
yes.
Okay, yes.
Ron Edwards,
Yes.
Lori Gross.
Yes.
Motion carries. Congratulations. Good luck. Hope we don't have to have you back.
You might be coming back to talk about a fence, but we'll see.
Okay, I don't have anything else if nobody else has anything. Okay, next meeting would be Tuesday, September the 3rd at 7 PM here. Look for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.